Hey everyone, my name is May Park. Today I'm going to show you how to create a dimensional mixed media card using several techniques including stenciling and color layering. I'll be creating a background using a stencil, embossing paste, and ink sprays to add some texture and interest. This is the card that I created using Altenew Dainty Bouquet stamp set last month. I love everything about this card. Embossed stencil background, black and gold ink splatters, color layered die cut flower, gold script die cut word, and black sentiment banner. I can't get enough of this card making formula. So I decided to copy my own design for today's project. Of course, I'm going to tweak a few things so they don't look too similar. I pulled out 3 different stamp sets from Altenew. You can use any of these stamp sets for today's technique, but I will choose the Builder Flower Catalia set as I haven't used it before, and this stamp set contains a beautiful branch of Catalia flowers that have an outline image and 3 additional layers for adding color and details. Then I'm going to choose a stencil. I love to use the stencil with a simple geometric pattern to bring attention to the focal point of my card. And the stencil shouldn't contain a delicate or thin line since I'll be using the embossing paste of the stencil. Since I already know I'm going to apply some embossing paste on the background, I'll be using Nina Solo White 110-pound cardstock. I recommend you use the heavyweight cardstock so it can hold the weight of embossing paste nicely. I'm cutting down my white cardstock into 4¼ inch by 5½ inches using my T-Mart tonic paper trimmer. I was going to use the classy striped stencil, but I found that the design is too simple, so I changed my mind and pulled out Deco Wallpaper stencil. I'll be taping down my panel onto the Altenew watercolor palette. This palette is designed to be used with watercolor paints, but it's also good when you work with embossing paste, and it has a slick surface so it's easy to clean. I'm going to secure my stencil over the panel using washi tape so the stencil won't move while applying the embossing paste. Today I'm going to use Range Texture Paste and Nouveau Glimmer Paste for stenciling. I'll be picking up some paste with my spatula and I'm putting the lid back on the container right away because embossing paste can dry out so quickly. Then I'm going to mix the embossing paste and glimmer paste together. I'm applying some embossing paste with spatula over the stencil toward one direction. If you don't have a spatula, you can use the plastic knife or expired credit card. You can apply your embossing paste over the entire background or partial area. Make sure not to work too fast, otherwise you may ruin your project as the embossing paste can smear under the stencil. I'm going to make sure to go over all of the surface with my spatula to make it smooth to the center of my panel, leaving some clean areas around the edge of my panel. To make your background more fun and organic, it's important to make a random pattern, not a symmetric pattern. So don't be afraid of applying your embossing paste randomly. You can also mix your embossing paste with coloring mediums like alcohol inks or watercolor paints to create your own colored embossing paste. You can go even further by applying the embossing powder over your texture pasted background and heat emboss it to create extra dimension and texture. So here is the most fun part. I'm going to lift the stencil straight up off my panel to reveal the stenciled image. Once you remove the stencil, I recommend you clean off your work surface and spatulize right away, otherwise you'll have trouble taking off the embossing paste once it's dry. It's hard to see in the video, but the background looks absolutely gorgeous with all the glitters in real life. If you made a mistake, you can carefully remove the embossing paste with your finger. But once it dries, it's hard to remove it, so you might need to use a craft knife instead. To add interest on my background, I'm going to splatter the background with alternate ink sprays, jet black, and gold metallic. Of course, you can leave the background clean and white without ink sprays if you want. If you don't want two colors to mix up together, make sure to dry the previous splatters using a heat tool before you add the next splatters. But I didn't dry in between as I kind of wanted to create a random messy look. Once my background is done, I'm going to set my panel aside for about 10 minutes to let it air dry. That way, my splatters will dry so beautifully without breaking out. While I'm waiting for my panel to dry, I'll stamp the layers from the Builder Flower Cartelia set with Altenew crisp dye inks. I'm going to choose the ink colors for my images first. If you are not sure which colors work together, you can refer to the trifold insert card included in the set as it shows 4 card designs with color recommendations. I will include a list of alternate ink colors on the description box below and on my blog post in case you are interested in the colors I used on my cards. To make my stamping process easy, I'm going to start stamping the outline image first on a piece of white cardstock using the light color, which is Mountain Mist. I just didn't want to show the outline, but I still need it as a stamping guide. Since my stamp set is brand new, I'm going to seize my clear stamps by rubbing them with my fingers and palms. You can also use a clean eraser or clear embossing ink to prep stamps so you won't get splotch images when you stamp the solid images. I'm keeping my trifold insert card next to me so I can refer to the layering guide while stamping. Please note that I stamped twice in the same position for some of the images to make sure I get intense impression. Here I am using the original Misty stamping tool for stamping today because this stamping tool helps me stamp the images in a perfect placement and get a nice impression. If you don't have this stamping tool, you could use a regular acrylic block. I'm also going to show you a tip and trick to stamp layers without outline images toward the end of this video, so stay tuned. If you are struggling with choosing the color scheme for your flower projects, you can go with any traditional color combo like red, yellow, and green like I do. However, if you'd like to step up your designs to the next level, I recommend you go outside your comfort zone by adding one of the achromatic colors like gray or indigo to your combination. Small change will make a big difference. Once my stamping is done, I'm going to do some die cutting. I'm going to secure my die on my stamped panel using washi tape so it don't move while die cutting. After placing my die and paper between cutting plates, I'll be running them through my Spellbinder's Platinum die cut machine. Next, I'm going to mount my stenciled panel on the A2 size top folding white card base using double-sided tape. You could use a regular glue tape if you want, but strong adhesive like this double-sided tape helps your embossing paste panel flat and sturdy. Since all of my supplies are out on my desk, I decided to create one more die cut flower using a different color combo. This time, I'll do color layering without using the outline stamp. I'm going to place the negative side of my die cut flower and inlay the die cut on the negative panel. Yes, I will using the edge of die cut as a stamping guideline. Here I have 2 die cut flowers finished. I was going to mount all of them on the panel, but I wasn't happy with the placement of the flowers. So I decided to create 2 cards highlighting each die cut flower. Next, I'm going to work on my sentiment. Here is my plastic container full of sentiment leftovers. I store all of them in one place for future projects, but that's also useful when I'm not sure which type of sentiment will go with my card design. I'm just pulling out some of the sentiment die cuts and banners from the container and place them over my floral arrangement. I think I like the white hidden embossed sentiment on black cardstock along with the thin black die cut word. I'm going to pull out the die from the signature words die set and die cut the word out of jet black cardstock using the Altenew mini blossom die cutting machine. I'm going to pull out the sentiment stamp from the Builder Flower Hyacinth stamp set. I'm prepping a piece of black cardstock with anti-static powder bag to prevent any stray powder from sticking to unwanted areas while heat embossing. I'm going to ink up my stamp with alternate embossing ink and stamp it on the paper. While the ink is still wet, I'm going to sprinkle some Altenew pure white embossing powder over the sentiment and tap the excess powder off my paper. Then I'll heat set my sentiment using a heat tool until it's completely melted. Next, I'm going to trim my sentiment into a banner using a craft knife and ruler. You can see my heat embossing is not perfect, but I'll show you how to fix it shortly. Now it's time to assemble my card. I'm going to coil some gold metallic thread 10 times around my hand and I place it in the middle of my panel. Next, I'm mounting my die-cut flower on the card front using 3M foam tape to add some dimension. I'm also using tonic Nouveau crystal glaze as 3M foam tape is not strong enough to attach my paper on top of the embossing paste. Then I'm going to mount my sentiment banner on the card front using 3M foam tape. I'm using my T-square ruler to place my sentiment in straight. Then I was going to attach my die-cut word, but I noticed that it looks too light against the textured background. So I decided to die-cut the word 5 times out of black cardstock using the mini blossom die-cut machine and mount the die-cuts together to make it thick. Making a chipboard sentiment takes time, but it creates a big difference once you place it on your card because it adds extra dimension and interest to your sentiment. Next, I'll be adding my die-cut word above my sentiment banner using tonic Nouveau crystal glaze. I'm going to finish off my card by fixing my heat embossing mistakes. I'm using my white gel pen to connect the lines and enhance the sentiment. For the melted white stray powder, you can cover it using a black pen. Before I go, I'm going to pull my iPhone camera back to show you how my craft desk looks like off the camera. If you follow me on Instagram, you already know that I moved from California to Texas 2 weeks ago. I'm in the process of organizing my craft room and I still have a few more moving boxes to unpack. It wasn't easy to make cards and be creative while settling in. That was why I decided to copy my own design for today's project. I hope you still loved my cards. This is it for today. I hope this video tutorial inspires you to create a mixed media card using the stenciling technique. If you have any questions, please leave comments below and I'd be happy to answer them for you. If you enjoyed my video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you haven't done it yet, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you won't miss any new videos from me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time with another video. Bye bye!